What's going on, y'all? So somewhere along the way, America stopped caring about whether people wanted to become Americans or not. And then they started demanding that Americans apologize for expecting people who come to this country to assimilate. And now the quiet part is getting said out loud. Not that we want to fit in, not that we share your values, not even that we want to coexist, which many don't. Increasingly, what it sounds like is we are bringing our system, our loyalty, our everything about our former way of life with us. And if you object, you're the problem. Meanwhile, judges keep turning violent criminals loose. Leftists absolutely melt all the way down the second they lose their power and influence. And across the West, the Christian church is becoming, Christian speech is becoming more and more offensive to the ruling class. And even more offensive than actual open hostility to the culture itself. So we're going to try and answer the question today: can a country survive when nobody agrees on the rules anymore? So we will get into that right after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to the Mission, the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, where faith in God is the standard and masculinity is not toxic. Today is Thursday, May 14th in the year of our Lord, 2026. This year is almost half over, and we have a ton of stuff to get into. I'm not even sure if I'm going to get into it all. Some of it we may have to save for the Saturday show, just as a reminder. But please, before we get into it, please hit like and subscribe and share. Help us to defeat the big tech tyrant algorithm. Growth has slowed a little bit, but it hasn't stopped. So thank you all for that. Our viewership has taken a hit for some reason. So please like, subscribe, share. Every click, every share, every like, every comment matters. And also don't forget that this show runs on SHR as well as my individual Mission Ready Men channel. It's the same show, same briefing, same time. SHR is the home base, but if you're not, if you haven't hit me up on the individual side yet, please do me a favor and do that. We are at 976 subscribers over there. So we are very, very close to 1,000, and we would love your help in pushing past that 1,000 subscriber mark. And also, as a reminder, I mentioned it a few seconds ago, but this is the last show that we're doing in this time slot. We're going to be moving to Tuesday and Thursday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. And also we have the weekend debrief at the same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. So make sure you hit the bell and so that you get notified when we are going live. Okay, now that the business is out of the way, let's get after it. And one of the things that we talk about quite a bit on this show is Islam and its intent to take over the country, to take over the world. This is not something that I just made up out of whole cloth. This is something that they tell us on a regular basis. And the title of this show, when they tell you who they are, believe them. And they have been telling us for decades who they are and what their intent is. But for some reason, people just don't want to believe them. And so this week, the other day, there was a hearing, a congressional hearing. I believe it was the Judiciary Committee. And they had a hearing about Sharia-free America. It was put on by the Sharia-free Caucus. I believe Chip Roy is the chairman of that committee, and he was running this meeting. One nation under God, indivisible, only works if the people really want to be indivisible. We have imported third world multiculturalism, and now people act like it's a surprise when groups, one group in particular, openly, but a lot of them do, but when they openly reject assimilation. And the thing is, as I stated before, they are telling us what their intent is. They're not hiding it. They're not whispering it. They're, in some of the statements they say, we are not ashamed of this. We are not hiding it. And for whatever reason that I just can't fathom, given all of the examples we have of their horrifically violent tendencies, that people just don't believe them. It is truly mystifying to me that people don't believe them when they tell us what their intent is. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, maybe you'll believe them in their own words. And if you're watching this show, you probably do understand where I'm coming from. But for people who may not be familiar with me or what we do here at SHR or at Mission Ready Men, maybe this will convince you, hopefully.
Muslims, but to look at all the other people who are sharing this country with us as potential Muslims. And in that long-range process of making America Muslim, all of America Muslim.
The long-range process of making all of America Muslim. Didn't believe that? Well, let's try this.
We're commanded to terrorize the disbelievers. And this is a religion, like I said.
Commanded to terrorize the disbelievers?
The Quran says very clearly in the Arabic language, turhibuna. This means terrorize them. It's a command from Allah. We're commanded to.
It's a command from Allah. They're making it very easy. They're making it very easy to understand where they're coming from. And for some reason, people are intentionally just glossing it over. It's insane to me. It is absolutely insane. And we have so many examples. I'm going to play one more because this one should, and if you think these are just some random Muslims, some random imams who, like Piers Morgan says, they're twisting the Quran, look it up for yourself. Look it up for yourself. In whatever search engine you like, just Google, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever search engine you want to use, and just search Muslims want to take over. Search worldwide caliphate. Search whatever you want. There is no shortage of these clips. But here's one more.
We don't say that Islam is here to live, to coexist with lots of different religions and all of us can just hold hands and be friends. This religion was sent to dominate the world. It was sent to be superior, to extinguish the light of every other religion and to be superior to it. We're not shy to say it, and we don't find that to be something that we should be shy to say. That this religion has been sent to dominate, to wipe out, to take out every other religion, to eclipse it, to be superior to it, to have the people leave every religion and to accept Islam. And if that requires fighting to achieve it, then it requires fighting to achieve it. Because the greatest purpose for which jihad was legislated is to make the word of Allah the highest and the word of those who disbelieve the lowest. We don't.
He didn't equivocate. He didn't mince any words. He didn't try to couch it in some euphemistic language. He said, point blank, we are here to dominate. Does it get any clearer than that? You can't have a united country when you import all of this hostility and third world madness. You can't have a unified country when these people just refuse to unite. And it's not just Islam. That's what we're focusing on right now. But how many times do you see people who cross the border illegally with the flags from the countries that they just left? Mexican flags, Guatemalan flags, whatever third world country they left from to come here. And instead of being thankful for being in the United States, they're carrying their flag and demanding that we accommodate them in their culture. And people got all upset because President Trump let in 60 or 70 South African people who just happened to be white. But guess what? When they got here, they had American flags in their hands and they expressed gratitude for being here. But Republicans, they held a Sharia-free America hearing the other day. And Democrats obviously framed it as being Islamophobic. I don't know, I can't say this enough. It's not fear. It's recognizing that Islam is a threat and we have to be prepared to stop it. A phobia is an irrational fear. It's not fear. But the question is bigger than religion. If you even subscribe to the notion that Islam is a religion, which it's not. And Islamic clerics will tell you that it's not a religion. It's a way of life. It's a form of governance. But again, people just don't want to believe them. Do Americans as a whole expect assimilation at all? The left doesn't seem to expect it. The left is all about suicidal empathy, it seems. But this hearing was tied to Epic City in Texas, which we've spoken about, or the Meadow now. The establishment of parallel communities, constitutional supremacy, and immigration and the cultural fragmentation that we're seeing that's being allowed. The witnesses in this hearing, they discussed all of that, the political Islam, Sharia concepts, Sharia being pushed in schools and in public institutions and all of that. And there was, I believe even there were some European examples brought up. And speaking of European examples, Piers Morgan is one of these people who just doesn't seem to believe that there is an issue with Islam. He says that Islam is only 5% of the population, and he doesn't see it as being a problem. Of course, he's wrong. The parts of London that he frequents, he probably doesn't see a ton of Islamists, but regular people do. Obviously, he's quite wealthy, and so he can afford to wall himself off from all of that. But let's and I'm talking about Piers Morgan, and I'm going to play this clip because it's indicative of what most of the left thinks about this subject.
Matter. I mean, they have tremendous power. How many mayoralties do they have? I mean,
they have a few mayoralties, but this idea, there's a lot of Americans are increasingly concerned that a lot of you guys seem to have this idea that we're literally being overrun by Muslims. And I don't know where it's coming from, because I live here. I live in London. I don't get any feeling I'm being overrun by Muslims.
Of course not.
I was in London about a year and a half ago, and it seemed to me there were an awful lot of women with veils on that I'd never seen before. And you have debates over whether Sharia law should be respected. Of course it shouldn't be respected. Sharia law is a cult of death. I mean, the Quran is a cult of death.
But
Piers Morgan is going to go on to say that Sharia law has no standing in the UK. Yeah, okay. That's why there's no-go zones and all the rest of that nonsense. But as I said, they are enacting their plan. The Quran and the Hadith, it's a battle plan. It's not a holy book. But let's. I do want to get into some of what happened in the hearing, and Jamie Raskin, he was questioning, and most of the highlights come from the questioning of this kid, this 16-year-old kid, and I actually played a video of him. He was at a school in Texas, and they had World Hijab Day at his school, and they were passing out Qurans and Sharia pamphlets and all the rest of it. And he brought it to light, and they didn't like that. So I want to take a listen to this. This is Jamie Raskin talking to this kid, Marco Hunter Lopez.
Special law addressing any particular religious population, whether it's the Muslim, the Christian, the Jewish, the Hindu, the Mormon, or what have you? Or are we just saying that everybody should be held to secular law in America? And I'm happy to open it up to anybody. Mr. Hunter Lopez.
Thank you, Congressman, for the question. I think that you keep referring to a secular law. I think it's important to point out, I believe it was 56 of the 57 Declaration of Independence signers were Bible-believing, faith, church-attending Christians. I believe it was the first original 13 colonies that required a declaration of faith. So I'm not acknowledging that.
Oh, well, wait a second. Now you're traversing my territory now, Mr. Hunter Lopez. You brought it up. Are you aware that the Constitution of the United States does not establish a religion? It forbids the establishment of religion. Are you aware that it doesn't mention God?
So the Declaration of Independence mentions God 4 times. But what I was going to say...
Is the Declaration of Independence law?
So Declaration of Independence was declaring our independence from the tyranny of England.
Yeah.
But
the
what I was trying to
Constitution's
finish
the governing
is that
law.
I'm not, suggesting that we need to go back to taking, tests or saying that you have to acknowledge.
Wait, do you know
religion.
that Thomas Jefferson was denounced as an infidel who wrote the Declaration of Independence because he didn't believe in the establishment of religion, and he and Madison were emphatic about separating church and state? That's the whole glory of our.
The irony of him bringing up Thomas Jefferson is that Thomas Jefferson is responsible for getting us into our first foreign war, which happened to be against Islamic pirates, the Barbary pirates, who were taking our citizens hostage. And when he confronted the ambassador said, it is our, I'm paraphrasing, the ambassador said, it is our religion. It is what we are commanded to do. It's been going on for thousands of years. And for whatever reason, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, that was about 3 minutes long, but this kid, for 16 years old, he destroyed Jamie Raskin, which obviously is not terribly difficult to do. The problem, one of the problems with what we're seeing with this, with importing all of these Islamists and other third world citizens, the problem is that we're no longer insisting that they come here and assimilate. We're no longer insisting that they come here and attempt to become Americans. Now we have this suicidal empathy where we just tolerate whatever. We don't insist that they participate and share in a civic identity. We don't insist that they come here and they abide by our laws and the Constitution. Multiculturalism destroyed all of that. And now, if we insist that people come here and try to assimilate, that's considered oppression. It's tolerance taken to the most absurd levels. It's ridiculous. And we're seeing it now in the European countries like the UK. They have parallel communities. I saw a video the other day. A woman was walking a blonde woman was walking down the street towards a community that was inhabited by a lot of Islamists, and a cop stopped her. And a cop told her she should not go there because it would not go well for her. Because that area was governed by Sharia law and it was a no-go zone. She would have had to put on a burqa or a hijab or something to walk down in her city where she lived. When there's no longer any shared civic identity, everything breaks down into tribal warfare, basically. And the media keeps insisting that if you object to this, you hate Muslims. You're Islamophobic. And they do that intentionally because it shuts down any further conversation that could be productive. Of course, we all know that there really is no productive conversation that can be had with somebody who follows the doctrines of Islam. And I've made this distinction before. Just like there are cultural Christians, people who grew up going to church but don't really have a relationship with God. There are cultural Muslims, people who grew up Muslim but choose not to follow the doctrines of Islam. That's not that they're peaceful Muslims. That's not that they're not radical Muslims. There's no such thing as a radical Muslim. There are the Muslims who actually follow what the Quran teaches and those who don't. There was another exchange at this hearing between Marco Hunter Lopez and Wesley Hunt. And this was pretty good too. So I want you to check this out.
Do you think there's an incongruency in the way you are treated as a Christian in your school and the juxtaposition of that in the way that your school is welcoming Sharia law and Islamic doctrine?
Yes, there's a clear double standard.
It's a shame that we are here today, and I'm sorry that we have failed you, but this is why we have this caucus, because we're going to make sure that we get this right and everybody is treated fairly regardless of your race, religion, or creed. To some people in this room, what I'm about to say may sound a bit controversial, but it's not controversial because it's true. America is a Christian nation. We're founded upon Christian values. Our founders believed that our rights did not come from government, but they came from God. Those ideals shaped our institutions, our culture, our laws, and the very moral foundation and fabric of what I know is the greatest country in the world. Now, America is also a country that welcomes people from all backgrounds of every culture and faith. That's actually what is a part of our greatness. And as somebody like me that fought in combat to ensure that anyone could come to this nation and believe what they want to believe and believe in the First and Second Amendment rights, I welcome that more than you could ever believe, because I laid my life down on the line to ensure that that would happen. But let's be clear about something. Assimilation to American values and ideas matter. When we begin importing belief systems and cultural values that are fundamentally incompatible with the principles that build this nation, we should not be surprised when the social fabric begins to fray. Let me be clear. This is not hateful. This is not racist. This is not xenophobic. And I can show I'm not racist. I've been black for like my whole life, for like 44 years. I say the Sharia law has no place to usurp our Constitution in these United States of America, and especially in our schools, and especially in our public institutions. America's legal system is rooted in the Constitution and equal justice under the law, not religious extremism or parallel legal systems.
Of course, he's right. He goes on. I played a little more of that than I intended, but he goes on, and it's his whole speech, if you have a chance to take a look at it, his whole 5 minutes is really good. There's one other clip from there that I wanted to show you, just because I thought Mr. Hunter Lopez did a fantastic job with this. This was one of my favorite moments from the whole thing. So check this out.
What's been the response from the school since you've been public and vocal about this double standard?
Like I said in my opening testimony, when my mom had requested the principal to email my teachers, because I had to miss school for the first day after that, and had to go late the second day because of death threats and things like that. And my mom had asked the principal to email my teachers just to keep an extra eye on me, and the principal told my mom, "You can." So it's really, that speaks volumes to the approach of leadership that the school has and the school district has.
Now, I told you I played the video clip of him talking about World Hijab Day and all the Islamic literature that was being circulated at his school that day. And this is what the result was. This is what he's referring to.
Because I guess they just wanted to dismiss my safety in that moment.
You received death threats?
Yes, sir.
What were some of the death threats? Could you tell us about them?
I had people saying that they were going to be at my house waiting for me to get home, and they were going to shoot me. I had people telling me to kill myself, a lot of different things. But I know nobody can proclaim anything over me because I wake up every morning with victory with Christ.
Amen. That's exactly right. What's been the...
Amen, brother. Amen. That was awesome. And so, like I said, if you have a chance, you should watch that entire hearing. It on YouTube, I think it says it's 2 hours. It's really not that long, and you can skip over some of the left. Oh, well, no, don't skip over the leftists, because some of the leftists, their questions, like Jamie Raskin, some of that was very, very informative as well. So if you have a chance and you're interested, I suggest you check it out. This was done by design. Because, and like Wesley Hunt alluded to, you can't teach people that America is evil and illegitimate and then act surprised when nobody feels loyalty to it. Obviously, the people that you're importing don't feel loyalty to it. And when the education system and the people who are running things feel no loyalty to it, they're not going to require that of people who they're importing. Just the opposite. And like I said, that was done intentionally. And I've played clips from this guy before, and we're going to wrap this up here in a second. But I do want to make this point, because I played clips from this guy before, and what he's describing here, this was from, I believe, the early 80s, maybe even 1980. And what he's describing here, we can see with perfect clarity that's happening right now, and the results of it.
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system.
This was, like I said, somewhere between 1980 and 1983. I can't remember exactly. We're seeing the results of that, and we're seeing that process continue. This is not about one religion or one system of one competing system of government, one competing system, which is Islam and Sharia law. It's about whether Americans actually still believe in a single national identity. And a country cannot survive indefinitely as a collection of competing civilizations sharing the same landmass. It can't. One nation under God, indivisible, is either a principle or it's just another slogan that means absolutely nothing. All right, y'all. We're going to this next segment that we're going to get into is not about Islam, but it's still about the deterioration of the civilization, and we're going to get into that right after a word from our sponsor. And our sponsor for today's show is Patriot Mobile. And every month you pay a phone bill, and if you're going to do that, why not support a company that actually shares your values? Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, and they help fund pro-life, pro-family, and pro-freedom causes. So if you sign up right now, you can get a free month of service at patriotmobile.com if you use the promo code Jackson, patriotmobile.com/Jackson, or call 972-PATRIOT and use the promo code Jackson. Make your money work for your principles. Switch to Patriot Mobile today. So, we just talked about Islam. Now we're actually going to get into Christianity. And we heard Hunter Lopez in the last segment talk about how, and Wesley Hunt talk about how this country was founded as a Christian nation. And Europe, for that matter, is based in, or was founded, Europe. The countries in Europe, for the most part, were Christian countries. And the Christian faith is the basis for all of the good things that Western civilization experiences today. But we're increasingly treating it as a destabilizing force that has to be mitigated and restricted and pushed out of public life. And just recently, a 78-year-old preacher was convicted of a heinous crime in Ireland. The heinous crime he was convicted of was preaching near the Causeway Hospital in Coleraine, because that was considered a safe access zone, and Northern Ireland's and a violation of Northern Ireland's abortion services Safe Access Act. That act prohibits people from influencing or preventing or impeding access. The complaint said nothing about him impeding access. He was merely preaching the gospel. He was preaching on John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And that was influencing and preventing access, apparently. And he wasn't jailed, thankfully, but he was fined about $600. But he's been convicted of a crime, the crime of preaching. And this is indicative of a lot of Western governments now treating Christian witness as a crime. You notice how the tolerance only seems to go one way? You're not going to see any Islamists preaching the Quran getting arrested. Quite the opposite. There have been other instances in the UK of Christians preaching the gospel near a mosque, near an Islamic enclave, and getting arrested themselves. But it'll never happen the other way around. And with the influence that Islamists are trying to exert here in this country, we better be careful. Because the modern West right now, Christian speech is offensive, according to them. You can scream all kinds of profanity at a drag march. You can have men in drag and transsexuals parading around basically naked in front of children, and that's not offensive at all. And to say that's offensive is you being intolerant. But preaching the gospel, that's where the intolerance comes in for these people. There was a couple of years ago, there was an Irish senator from the Green Party named Pauline O'Reilly. And she said the quiet part out loud I don't even know if we can really call it the quiet part anymore, because they're all saying it out loud. But this is her on the Senate floor in Ireland a couple of years ago.
When you think about it, all law, all legislation is about the restriction of freedom. That's exactly what we're doing here, is we are restricting freedom, but we're doing it for the common good. You will see throughout our Constitution, yes, you have rights, but they are restricted for the common good. Everything needs to be balanced. And if your views on other people's identities go to make their lives unsafe, insecure, and cause them such deep discomfort that they cannot live in peace, then I believe that it is our job as legislators to restrict those freedoms for the common good.
Wow. So if I say something that you don't like and makes you uncomfortable or causes you some distress, short of obviously threatening you, but if I tell you that your lifestyle is wrong, that your lifestyle goes against Christian values, if your lifestyle is against biblical teaching, and you find that so distressing that you can't function, that's a you problem. That's a you problem. And that shouldn't be legislated out of existence. And I know that that's not what they do over in the UK and Ireland and all the rest of it. I know that's different. They do things differently. But if you think that that type of thing isn't already happening here, we've seen people praying in front of an abortion clinic getting arrested and being thrown in jail. Prayer is somehow intimidating to people. Teaching biblical morality is now tantamount to psychological harm for some of these people. But we've had those Christian bakers dragged through the courts because they didn't want to participate in a gay wedding. And I think they're actually going through another case right now. Christian adoption agencies are being pressured and in some cases shutting down. There was a coach a few years ago who prayed on the 50-yard line after the game and was fired from his job. We had Biden's DOJ targeting parents who didn't want their children exposed to certain things. Parents called extremists for voicing their displeasure at school board meetings. It's the same thing, and it's happening here. Christian conviction is increasingly treated as dangerous because, and this is the number one reason, because Christians refuse to affirm the progressive, secular orthodoxy and dogma. Progressive secularism has basically become a religion. I've said this before. It has an approved doctrine. It has protected identities. It has its own ritual language, blasphemy enforcement. And Christianity is at odds with it because Christians still believe in objective truth, not your truth, my truth, and all that nebulous nonsense. Christians believe that biblical morality is still a thing. Christians believe that people and governments still ultimately answer to God. And we do not believe that the state is the highest authority, despite what Tim Kaine said about our rights coming from government. The Christian worldview is diametrically opposed to the secular progressive worldview. And if we don't stand up and let our dissatisfaction with this state of affairs be known, we will end up just like the UK, just like Ireland. They hate Christianity not because it's powerless. They hate Christianity because Christians stand up and say, not today, to the power structures that refuse to acknowledge Christianity. When civilizations start treating Christians and Christianity as though it's some sort of social harm along the same lines as drug addiction and mental illness and all the rest of it. Once that starts happening, it's not defending tolerance, despite what they would have you believe. It's abandoning the very foundations that made that tolerance possible. All right. I got a couple of other stories I want to get to, and I'm not sure if I want to do this one first or flip the order. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this because I think this is important. There is a movement right now. There is a large movement right now, I think, to try to hold these ridiculous activist leftist judges responsible for the criminals that they let out with no consequence. People are fed up with these institutions that ordinary people are facing consequences, but the criminals who actually deserve to face harsh consequences are just left alone to roam the streets and terrorize their communities. Every time a repeat offender commits a violent crime, another violent crime because they're repeat offenders, the headlines, although it is starting to, that is starting to pick up these days because, like I said, there is a movement afoot, but the headlines often stop one name short. And we're starting to now, but for a long time, we never heard about the judge who let these criminals go. In Texas, lawmakers have finally started to ask the question, what happens when the people who make these decisions turn out to be wrong? Right now, people on the left anyway seem to think that accountability for these people is dangerous. So like I said, Texas is pushing for legislation to allow victims, families to sue judges who let some of these violent criminals go, and then they go on to commit new horrific crimes. There have been multiple high-profile cases recently. One of the most egregious, obviously, is the one of Irina Zarutska. Maryland is having similar conversations as Texas, shockingly, because it is Maryland after all. But of course, the left is saying that you're threatening judicial independence. Judges can't operate under fear. Well, they should. They should operate under fear because the criminals that they have these soft spots for are going on to hurt and murder other people with barely a slap on the wrist. They're saying that it undermines the justice system. Well, I think the victims of those repeat offenders would say that the justice system has already been undermined. We just had it. There was just a case in Massachusetts. An activist judge let a repeat offender out And he went on to do this. I mean, it wasn't like it was just a first-time offense and you had no way of predicting that he would go nuts like this. This guy, I believe, was actually, I'm confusing some cases, so I'm not gonna lie. But I mean, this guy was a repeat offender. And actually, I think I have a clip of them actually describing this guy. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here we go.
The legislative branches to step up and find a way to put a check on the judicial branch. So how do you deter a problem? The problem is judges. You can deter them by impeaching them. The federal legislature can impeach federal judges who derelict their duty. Many states, you can do the same thing, state legislatures. Not only that, Tim Sheehy has legislation called the Jail Act to help deter some of this activity by allowing people to bring civil actions if a judge, let's say, lets someone out on bail and commits an offense, because the data is there. And you can see it from the United States Sentencing Committee. In an 8-year study that they did, 63.8% of violent offenders in 2010 who were released were rearrested. Same number, 63.8%, right about there in 2005. So people commit crimes again. That's why we depend on judges to put in the right sentencing. They're not doing it. So we need to look at deterrence, impeachment, civil actions. It's time for the legislature to step up because this cannot keep happening.
And yet, there are people who would fight that because of what? Suicidal empathy or something? Regular citizens face immediate consequences for their mistakes. And those same people who are saying that these judges shouldn't be held accountable for this stuff, those are the same people who would convict police without a trial and send them right to jail. But as I've said many, many times, the left is completely incoherent. Completely incoherent. Businesses get sued all the time for mistakes. Doctors are held to that standard. If they make a mistake, they can be sued. So why are judges not held to that standard? You say the wrong thing and you can lose your career overnight. We've seen it happen. But a judge lets a career criminal out on bail or some ridiculously short sentence, and then they go on to rape or kill someone as soon as they get out. Happens all the time. Why shouldn't they be held to that standard? Now, there does need to be a balance, because judges, they do have immunity for a specific reason. But if their decisions are made in good faith, that's one thing. But when you're presented with a criminal who has 10, 15, 20, 30 arrests, multiple convictions. And you say, 5 years probation after they just assaulted someone. Even though each subsequent offense that they've been convicted for, arrested for, was worse than the last. But yeah, this time will be different. If a judge makes a decision like that, then they must be held accountable. Now, if it's a first-time offender kid, 17, 18 years old, there hasn't been any history of violence or any criminal history that would suggest that they are a violent criminal, and then they go out and they do something, that's terrible. But in that case, I wouldn't say that a judge needs to be held criminally liable or anything like that, because there was no evidence to suggest that what they were doing was wrong. But like I said, in that instance, when the judges know, when they have the record right in front of them, that this person is a violent criminal. I think there was just a case. Well, no. Like I said, I think I'm mixing up cases. There was a case where the defendant laughed, and I think the judge actually slapped that one down. But regardless, these criminals and these judges who let these criminals out must be held accountable. That's not to say that we expect perfection. Nobody's perfect. But we do expect a little more than depraved indifference. And that's what some of these decisions amount to from these leftist activist judges. All right, let's move on to this one, because this one, this is crazy. And we've talked about this quite a bit with the redistricting fight. And these people have spent years normalizing political escalation. And now, when the other side stops taking those punches and punches back, now all of a sudden it's a problem. And I'm talking about Tennessee. Tennessee, led by Malcolm Luther X, Justin Pearson. They have lost their minds. It's actually been kind of amusing to watch. But we saw Malcolm Luther X try to berate that Tennessee state trooper. I'm not gonna get into all that. But there is, let's see, is this the right one? Yeah. So the other one named, or one of the other ones named Charlene Oliver. After the decision was announced, she made a complete fool of herself. And let's take a look at some of that, because this and the memes generated from this are absolutely hilarious. Some of them are inappropriate that I can't show you, but some of them are absolutely hilarious. But this is her right here after the decision was announced. Look at this.
Fuck you, Senator. You should be ashamed of yourself. You too, motherfucker. Fuck you. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. You can snarl all you want.
These people are in same. So you saw her dancing on her, dancing and singing on top of her desk, and people in the gallery acting a fool. And like I said, these people have just lost their minds. And this is procedural warfare that the left has engaged in forever. But now that Republicans have decided to step up their game, and I've said this many, many times before, Republicans need to play the game based on the rules that the left has set forth. They established these rules. And for some reason, for the longest time, Republicans wanted to take the high road. And I've said for a long time, Republicans need to start playing by the same rules. And now they are. And now all of a sudden, it's a problem. When these people know good and well that if they did the exact same thing, and they have, they have done the exact same thing. They're mad because Republicans redistricted and wiped out a Democrat seat. When we know that there are numerous states with 30, 40% Republican population that have no representation. And I talked about this the last time. Massachusetts is one of them. And Massachusetts is more red than Tennessee is blue. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is it's different when they do it. It's big D different when they do it. And if you follow me on social media, you've seen me post that a lot. But now when Republicans do it, it's dangerous. They invented this. And like I said, they wrote these rules. Now they're mad because Republicans are playing by them and doing a better job of it than they do. This is Malcolm Luther X, Justin Pearson. There's another Justin. I think this is Justin Pearson. This is this guy.
I believe it is a vision of people who've been ostracized coming to the well. I see white folk and black folk. I see queer folk and straight folk. I see rich folk and poor folk coming from the back to the well of demanding justice right now. Not tomorrow, but right now.
Malcolm Luther X demanding justice. What do you even say to this poser? I mean, and I've showed. I'm not gonna show it again, but I've showed you the side by side of him when he was in college, clean cut, well spoken, and now he's got this raggedy looking afro, thinking he's a preacher. It's actually pretty funny, but his problem here is that after those stunts that they pulled, what's her name dancing on the desk and him storming out, the Speaker of the House in Tennessee, Cameron Sexton, he stripped all of them, all Democrats. He stripped them all of their committee assignments and subcommittee assignments. Good. That's what needs to happen. Republicans need to wield the power that they've been given. And that's how you do it. Because make no mistake, a Democrat Speaker of the House would have done exactly that if Republicans had acted that kind of fool. You know it and I know it. Of course, the national media, the American Pravda, frames it as an attack on democracy. These people are just lunatics. Scott Jennings, he of course put them in their place. Where is it? I thought I had it. Well, anyway, like I said, Scott Jennings put them in their place. Yeah, here we go. Let's take a listen to this, because he regularly eats these people's lunch on CNN, and this one was no different.
Racial redistricting. On the campaign, you literally are taking Memphis, which is a city that with black voters, and you split it in three, stretching 3,000 miles.
Who's the current Democrat?
Okay, she did not have this energy when Virginia did exactly that and took the DC suburbs, carved them up, and then fanned them out all down Southern Virginia. There were people in Southern Virginia represented by somebody from DC who were further away from their representative than their representative was from the state of New Jersey. I don't know if it was 3,000 miles, but does it really matter? And of course it doesn't, because that's the double standard.
Congressman there, what is it a black congressman?
Just because black people are allowed to like people that don't look like them?
Exactly. And that is the point I wanted you to make, because just because you're not going to have a black congressman, why is it that a Republican can't do just as well representing black voters as a Democrat?
Because
why
they
does
aren't
your race,
electing.
Why does
because,
your race
just because
And here's the other thing that she fails to acknowledge. One of the white congressmen, who happens to be a Democrat that she was all for, is going to be replaced by a black woman who's Republican. But that's a problem somehow.
In your politics.
It doesn't. No. You're making my point, actually. The assumption is black people. No. The assumption is black people will only elect black people. No, black people are smart enough to.
There's a reason that's the assumption. That's the assumption because that's what they've been complaining about this entire time. Black representation, when these people talk about black representation, they're not talking about a white representative that holds their same values. No. That's not what they're talking about. They're talking about somebody, you hear it all the time. They talk about how I love that somebody who looks like me is representing me. You hear it all the time when they talk about TV shows and all the rest of it. That's what they mean. And she's trying to twist it, and Scott Jennings is having none of it.
No, the assumption is
let me finish. Black people will elect people who will actually represent them, who have their best interests at heart. And what Republicans have done in Tennessee is dismantle the power for black people to have their voice. They did the same thing in Texas because they said they thought Latinos were going to swing for Republicans. There are black people that are represented. I'm black and I got a Republican president right now. Black people.
And you hate it. And you hate it. Be real. These people are absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This is bigger than Tennessee, though. It's bigger than Virginia. It's bigger than Tennessee. It's bigger than Texas. It's about the escalation that they have fomented. And now it's because the other side, Republicans, are doing it, like I said, playing by the rules that they established. Now all of a sudden it's a problem. When you think about all of the states that have gerrymandered Republicans out of representation, now that it's the shoe's on the other foot, they have a problem with it. The court finally ruled that you cannot gerrymander and draw these districts based on race. And now the people who wanted this post-racial environment after Barack Obama, which turned out to be the complete opposite of that. Now that the court has ruled that that is not that's not lawful, now they're arguing to go back to drawing these districts based on race. But I thought we were beyond that. No, we're not beyond that, because this is exactly what they're arguing for. And it's beyond parody at this point, really. It's ridiculous. This is all this moral outrage that they're showing, the walkouts, the screaming, the berating police, berating other people, occupying buildings, doxing people. The left has basically redefined that as moral courage. And they're trying to tell us that this is all about saving democracy. But as I've said before, when they say democracy, what they mean is their power. What they mean is their chokehold on on political power. That's not democracy. But as soon as Republicans decide that they're not going to take it anymore, now all of a sudden the outrage isn't about reestablishing norms or anything like that. Now all of a sudden it's about, well, they think that Republicans are the ones that are illegally or immorally trying to seize power, when all we're doing is trying to rebalance the scales, because that's what they've been doing forever, and we've just been letting them do it. And now that some people with some political courage are saying no more, now it's a problem. The rule has been simple for a long time. Democrats can escalate. Republicans are just supposed to apologize and sit back and take it. Institutional pressure like this only works when one side fears bad press more than they fear losing power. And for years, Republicans governed from that position of weakness. And the Speaker of the House in Tennessee and Tennessee Republicans finally say, you know what? Fine, be mad. Be mad. We're just doing what you've been doing for all this time. And so Republicans have, or it seems like Republicans have decided to get rid of the old take the high road model. And I, for one, am happy that they have finally woken up. Republicans democracy is not collapsing, despite what the left would have you believe. Republicans are just deciding that we're not going to play defense anymore. At least I hope that this is the start of that trend. I hope that more Republicans take a look at what they're doing in Tennessee and take notes. All right, I wanted to talk about Spencer Pratt a little bit, and I don't think I'm going to have time because I think we'll save that for Saturday because I want to spend a little more time than we have on it. I know I've talked a lot about the LA mayor's race more than it would normally deserve, but I think what's happening out there is worth talking about. But I did want to play this because this was one of the most insane exchanges I think I've heard in a sea of ridiculous exchanges. But this particular one was just when I first saw it, I couldn't really believe what I was seeing, and then I realized who it was that initiated it, and then it kind of made sense, but not really. But let's check this out.
Last year, House Republicans actually included a provision of that in their EPA funding bill. Are you actually spending taxpayer dollars looking into medication abortion being in the water?
Unless they're one of the many hundreds of pharmaceuticals on the list of the contaminant candidate list, I'm not aware of the agency doing anything with that.
Do you seriously believe there's abortion in the water like some of the far-right activists are suggesting?
I have not. You just said abortion in the water?
That's what some far-right activists are saying, that they have an audience in the EPA on that absurd issue.
Yeah, I have not had a conversation with anyone at the agency as far as abortions in water.
I think she's referring to the idea that mifepristone and some of the other chemical abortion drugs have been found in drinking water. I think that's what she's talking about. But the way she put it, abortion in water, just sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? And then you realize it's Patty Murray who's saying this, and then it kind of makes sense. I'm not going to play the rest of it. I mean, Lee Zeldin is just like, what are you talking about? It was ridiculous. But I think we're gonna end it there. You have been watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing right here on the SHR Media Network, and on the network you can catch all of our great shows. Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. Jersey Joe, he's been on a bit of a break, but he will be back. The Reaver of Common Sense every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. BZ in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. He will be on tonight with another banger of a show, so be sure to check that out tonight. And Lyle Armstrong with Beer and Bullstein every Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. He has a ton of informative stuff, so you be sure to check that out as well. Please like, subscribe, share all of these great shows. Help us, as I said at the top, break out of the big tech tyrants' algorithm chokehold, and continue to pray for us that we have a breakthrough. We had a bit of a one, and then they tried to choke us down, but we're we're going to come back. I'm fully confident that is going to happen. But that is it for this briefing. We're not just here to fill the streaming services with nonsense. We are here to equip Christian men and spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope into the next generation. And if anything that we said here matters to you, like I said before, please like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, and share it with another guy and bring them into this fight as well. And if you want to wear what you stand for, head over to missionreadymen.com, click Shop 7 Armors, and check out all the great designs we have there. I talk about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And while you're there, head over to the, just click on the SHR shop, and you can check out all of the t-shirts for all the shows of the guys that are on the network. And like I said, that's going to do it. So remember, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.